I am Babla Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the crisis hit southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, records an upsurge in the number of coronavirus cases in that part of the country. It now counts at least 30 confirmed cases of the COVID-19, and the Archbishop of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church, Samuel Cleda, says his treatment for COVID-19 is very effective. He brought together some herbs and administered to some COVID-19 patients and said they recovered their health. He was speaking to the press today, and the government of the Republic of Cameroon says it does not tell lies, it does not thwart facts, neither does it deliberately hide information on some happenings in the country. The spokesperson of the government and Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, was speaking to the press yesterday in Yaoundé after the publication of findings on the February 2020 Garbu massacre in the Donga Mantum Division, northwest region of Cameroon, by an inquiry set up by government. For joining us on this edition of the news on Équinoxe Television. We begin right away in one of the crisis-hit Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon, the southwest region, which is recording an upsurge in the number of coronavirus cases. The region now counts at least 30 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Derek Jato reports on Boya.
Don't test plenty for about 280.
We have tested 280 cases.
And 31, they don't see and say they get the sick. Inside that 31, 3 they don't die.
31 confirmed positive and 3 dead. Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health, Dr. Ibongo Zakiyos Nanje, revealed to the press Tuesday, April 28, 2020 in Boya.
What together known as that sick we call coronavirus is there for Southwest here. You don't hold plenty people.
He spoke in Pidgin language, a widely used language of communication here. The administration want the information to be well understood by all, that coronavirus is coming faster than expected. Care must be taken and effort must be doubled.
You wash your hand, you cover your nose with this thing, so you didn't know if you buy the kind of you use even any kind of if you help. And if you help, they say, oh, water the quench fire.
With 31 confirmed positive cases of coronavirus in the Southwest region, the Southwest Regional Committee for the Fight Against Coronavirus, headed by Governor Bernardo Kalia Bilai, during its weekly evaluation meeting at the Southwest Governor's Office, noted that much really needs to be done.
We have to step up with case management with the approval of the mid-farm makeshift hospital for COVID-19, so that most of these cases can be quarantined and treated there.
At the level of the medical personnel, those facing the coronavirus head-on, there is a big problem. The personal protective equipment are limited, and they are losing many battles in this war. The limited number of these PPE has given the coronavirus an edge. Some of these medical personnel have been exposed, and others have been tested positive for the virus. The coronavirus is beating them both physically and psychologically. Something needs to be done now.
It is a very, very, very big problem here. That of PPEs, personal protective equipment. The medical personnel need to be taken good care of, so that it's not only protecting them but also to boost up their morale. You know, now psychologically they are like defeated.
From 13 to 31 confirmed cases of coronavirus, observers say it is merely indicating that the much which is said to be done is still far below average.
And as the coronavirus cases continue increasing in the Republic of Cameroon, the Archbishop of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church in Greece, Samuel Kleder, said that his African traditional medicine treatment for the COVID-19 is very effective. The man of God was speaking to the press today in Douala, and he said that all the COVID-19 patients who consumed the combination of herbs recovered their health, even those who were at very complicated COVID-19 situations or levels. And of course, we have details in this report. But for me, I'm Strong Sander.
Studies at the St. Peter and Paul Cathedral in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala, is a space reserved for the herbal pharmacy of His Grace Samuel Kleder, Archbishop of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese. The pharmacy is host to numerous medicinal plants, some of which are well known to the public. On different stands are medicinal products made of these plants and ready to be used for diverse treatments. One of the counters contained the treatments to COVID-19 discovered by the bishop, but it is difficult to tell which. The medicine is kept secret by His Grace Samuel Kleder, who is however willing to throw more light on the products which have successfully treated COVID-19 patients in Cameroon within the last month.
Le produit que j'ai mis sur pied.
The treatment that I have discovered is very efficient against COVID-19. None of the patients to whom we administered the treatment has died. All got recovered, including those who are in critical conditions, especially health officials, who are the most exposed professional group.
Beaucoup de médecins, puisque c'est eux qui sont les plus exposés.
Whether the product has been scientifically certified is not the major preoccupation of the man of God.
Je cherche à m'organiser.
My major concern is to get the product on huge quantity to be able to reach out to so many patients as possible. I give glory to God because the intelligence comes from God.
Je lui rends grâce.
Neither the name nor the composite element of the product has been revealed by the Archbishop, who however highlights that the product is essentially made of plants and void of anything chemical. Archbishop Samuel Kleder says the medicine will remain free of charges and administered in Catholic hospitals in the city of Douala. On the announced collaboration of the Ministry of Public Health in Cameroon, the Archbishop expressed his willingness to collaborate with public officials to get a larger number of people treated of COVID-19.
And a religious and peace crusader, a religious leader and peace crusader, Sheikh Ibrahim Mubarak, calls on Muslim faithfuls to rally behind the government of the Republic of Cameroon to fight the common enemy, the coronavirus. He believes during this month of Ramadan, according to him, Muslims must respect barrier measures and all the restrictions imposed by the administration to bar the way to COVID-19. Équinoxe Tv reports.
Ramadan month 2020 is a special fasting period as it falls in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic.
This means that we Muslims have to practice our fasting period as first Muslim generations with the Prophet Muhammad, peace of upon him, was in the battle of Badr, because in the battle of Badr there was also fasting and there was fighting against enemies. Our enemies now is under COVID-19.
Muslim faithful in the religious light are taking the coronavirus as the enemy threatening humanity.
Muslim as other religious believers have to fight against Corona, who is a very bad enemy. It means that our arms, our guns that we use to fight against Corona is in particular our faith, firstly, and secondly, recommendations.
The Peace Crusader as well stressed on the social distancing rule as a reliable weapon against the pandemic spread.
we have to be very distant from other, and we have also to protect ourselves. Leaders, imams and ulamas have not only to preaching about it, but to practice and teach how to practice.
Mosques, ignoring the social distancing rule and other measures prescribed by government, according to Sheikh Ibrahim Mubarak, must be closed.
We have to close it because to protect ourselves and protect human being and humankind is better for us to pray in the house with the family than to take ourselves in any place or any church and any mosque and any way we can go and to mix it ourselves in the non-respect of recommendation. This is what Islamic Union of Cameroon and also the Imams Councils, Mosque and Islamic Affairs in Cameroon ask any Muslim believers.
Muslim faithful fasting and praying affirm it is of absolute necessity to adhere to anti-COVID-19 barrier measures.
Nous musulmans, nous faisons l'effort d'observer.
Also, to keep praying to God with faith and trust. It is only Him who can get rid of this pandemic.
Les invocations à l'endroit de Dieu.
That all should not only wash their hands, but keep their hearts clean by abstaining from sinful practices, so as to see their prayers reach God.
Multiplier beaucoup des invocations auprès de Dieu.
Sheikh Ibrahim Mubarak exhorts Cameroonians to be humble and faithful to God, like Littoral Governor Samuel Josene Ivahadebois, who served his population, prayed for them, and unfortunately got infected as he approached infected persons, but was freed from the infection by God for being a true servant.
The latest COVID-19 figures from the Ministry of Public Health of the Republic of Cameroon indicate that the country has recorded close to 100 more confirmed cases and more than 50 persons have died of COVID-19 and close to 1,000 have been successfully treated. The figures are rising and the figures will likely be higher when the Ministry of Public Health brings updates on the COVID-19 situation of the Republic of Cameroon. On to something else now. Cameroon's Minister of Communication Rene Emmanuel Sade rejects information suggesting that government tells lies, thwarts or deliberately hides information, or better still, the truth concerning some happenings in the country. And speaking to the press yesterday in Yaoundé, Minister Rene Emmanuel Sade began by explaining why government takes time to make a statement when an incident of national interest occurs in the country. Take a listen to Minister Rene Emmanuel Sade.
In Cameroon, as elsewhere, the information is collected from sources that enjoy the best presumption of reliability and is then cross-checked before being made public in order to limit as much as possible the margins of error likely to alter it. This also explains why it may take some time between the occurrence of the event and the government's reaction. This was the case with the Ngarbu events. The events, as you know, took place on the night of 13 to 14 February 2020. The government's reaction came 4 days later, the time needed to conduct the investigations required by the seriousness of the events. This means, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that when the government speaks out on topical issues, it always does so in good faith, never with the aim of misinforming or misrepresenting the facts, but on the contrary, in order to provide the public with the right information in a transparent manner.
February 2020 Ngarbu massacre in the Dongamantum Division, Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The Minister of Communication, Rene Emmanuel Sadi, said that the findings of the inquiry commission set up by government did not in any way contradict earlier statements made by the government on that incident, and he explains why some truths were concealed. Take a listen.
As to the substance of the matter in relation to the Ngarbu incident, the government began by recalling the context in which the military operations was undertaken. In this respect, moreover, as you will have noticed, the views of the government and those of the Joint Commission of Inquiry converge, in that the village of Ngarbu had become a landmark, a veritable logistical base for the supply of arms, a veritable logistical base for the supply of arms, ammunition, and fuel to the secessionist armed bands. Moreover, the investigation revealed that those terrorists had carried out numerous acts of violence against the civilian population, such as cattle rustling, rape, and other assaults, what the government had also said at the time. Moreover, it should be recalled that it is in response to the appeal of the people of the locality of Ngarbu, who were literally taken hostage by the armed gangs, that the defense forces undertook a mission on the ground, during which fighting took place and leading to the death of 5 secessionist terrorists. Here again, the Joint Commission of Inquiry does not contradict what the government stated on 18 February 2020, namely that the armed gangs that were wreaking havoc in this area, sowing terror and desolation among the population, had taken refuge in a peripheral hamlet called Ngarbu to set up their rear base and reorganize the racketeering of the people while perpetrating unspeakable abuses on the road leading to Tumbo. Similarly, and at no time did the government conceal the fact that there have been civilian deaths. This is a serious, distressing, and deplorable situation for which the government, through my voice, has conveyed to the bereaved families the condolences of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Biya. Only the exact number and the responsibility of the perpetrators of the human killings were deliberately concealed by the elements of our defense and security forces involved in the operation, in which they were taken by panic. Another truth that has not been denied by the Joint Commission of Inquiry, and that must be said, is that the detachment of military and gendarmes dispatched to Ngarbu was not intended to exterminate civilians or set houses on fire. In other words, it was not a combat operation, but a reconnaissance mission whose essence was unfortunately twisted. All what I have said is sufficient to indicate that it was never the intention of the government to distort the facts and attest to its good faith.
Cameroon's Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi speaking the atrocities are still being committed in Anglophone Northwest and Southwest regions as close to us the close to 4-year-long socio-political and security crisis continues deepening, and killing and destruction of properties are still recorded in gun battles between pro-independence fighters and state soldiers and raids, and many civilians have been running out of their homes and villages for safety. Since Sunday, hundreds of soldiers are reported to have entered Bafut subdivision in the northwest region of the country, moving through different parts of the area, including the market, Bujong, Sani, and the palace, as the fight against secessionist activities in Anglophone Cameroon continues. Inhabitants lament over the fact that they are tortured and their business sites looted. Onto something else. Inhabitants of Momebelngal in the Nkolmeseng neighborhood, in the central region of the country, say they are fighting against some malpractices by the council over the contested piece of land. They are being forced to leave the land which they have been occupying for several years. Smanjik and Gabriel reports.
There are almost 500 inhabitants who reside at the Nomebelngal quarter in Kolmeseng neighborhood of the Yaoundé 5 subdivision. The inhabitants are angry after the Yaoundé 5 council officials marked their houses for destruction and gave them 30 days to leave the parcel of land which measures up to 4,000 square meters.
Nous sommes persécutés ici au quartier depuis le 14 avril.
Since 14th April, the Yaoundé 5 council officials have been persecuting us as they came to mark our houses for destruction, saying it was a site reserved for the construction of a modern market. Owing to the present condition faced by the people, they decry the mayor's attitude, who doesn't want to even receive them. When we go to see the mayor, he sends us away. Before the second assistant mayor received us for 15 minutes, we had waited for 4 hours, and he referred us back to the officials who came and marked our houses for destruction.
On ne sait pas le plan caché que le nouveau maire de Yaoundé 5.
We don't know the hidden plan of the new mayor of Yaoundé 5. In one small neighborhood, 4 different projects.
Ici, un marché, l'autre côté là-bas, un marché plus la mairie, alors que l'ancienne maire avait prévu construire la mairie sur l'ancien site. On ne sait pas, en peine, même pas 2 mois de maire.
The behavior of the quarterheads who were part of the buying of this parcel of land by the people since 2006 is also a major worry. The chief seems to have disappeared from the scene. He says we should come, that they won't destroy our houses. He asked us to photocopy our documents, our land titles, and take pictures of our homes and bring to him. The Yaoundé 5 council say the land belongs to them because the elders of the village gave them the parcel of land since 1999. But now it is being contested. The people of Nomebelngal are now saying that they will fight with the last man standing to ensure that their houses are not destroyed.
Sont prêts à nous sacrifier, à mourir. Et que la communauté nationale et internationale voit ce qui va se passer en Kolmeseng. Nous pensons encore que les autorités ont encore une occasion pour avoir suivi, que viennent habiter ce problème, parce que nous ne pourrons pas laisser notre investissement, on quitte comme les malpropres. Nous sommes Camerounais.
All attempt to get the version from the Yaoundé 5 council proved futile as they refused talking about the issue.
Back to the Anglophone crisis. Coming up, we take a look at the sufferings of internally displaced persons kicked out of their homes by the Anglophone crisis, and a reporter in the northwest region, Stella, will be looking at how they are surviving with the help of men, women of goodwill, and religious bodies, notably the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon.
Hardship inhabitants of the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon is further compounded as they are forced to abandon their sources of livelihoods and run for safety. The crisis has forced us to come here. While here, life has not been easy. The crisis has made me to run from one place to another until I find myself in Bamenda. We're faced by so many troubles.
Shooting, killing, burning places.
So we run away with our lives. Many have lost their homes and loved ones. The human and material losses incurred further traumatizes them.
I know they do nothing. I know they.
These days, internally displaced persons are moving from one queue to the other to get food and other basics on distribution. These queues have grown longer as the crisis deepens. Livelihood supports have ended in the pots of many IDPs due to the burdens of the war.
We are not really offering direct financial support as per se. Usually some of them will take this money and not put them into use. So we want to actually give them a life that is self-sustaining. If you have been learning a trade and you were disappointed, or maybe you had a barbing shop or a salon, or you had a tailoring workshop and life is not going well for you, this is where we are coming in to see how we can bring life back again to these IDPs.
The Peace Office of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, within the framework of a project, IDPs for the Radio, is providing some vulnerable internally displaced persons with not only material and financial aid, but psychosocial support, given that IDPs need more than food to bounce back.
From the word psychology, it builds the person, it builds the whole person. It gives an assurance that man does not just depend on the ordinary things of life, that man depends on things that can encourage you to move forward in spite of whatsoever thing that may have happened. So it is so important, and we are shifting the narrative of IDP support. That is not just to get rice, to get mattresses or whatever thing and invite them to come and take, but it's also to listen to their story and to also see what they need, not giving them what you want.
During a workshop in Bamenda, the IDPs were listened to and advised by experts.
Even the way they began for we yesterday, like counseling, the really counsel we find and we feel relief that yesterday, because we really feel they say we're on the end for this world, the way we're on our end. As we hear the counseling, they will be relieved that yesterday.
In the days ahead, they will be sharing their stories over radio stations in Bamenda to inspire others know all might have gone down but not lost.
Talking Point is up next. Thanks for staying with us in Talking Points. Our guest today, Dr. Valentine Ngwai, physician and lead clinical national HIP fractured database, is joining us from Mid Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babula. Thanks for having me.
All right. As of April 28, the confirmed corona death toll on the African continent stood at 1,469, with fatalities including the former president of the Republic of Congo, Jacques Joachim Yombi Opango, and the Somalia's former Prime Minister Nur Hassan Hussein. And there are over 33,566 confirmed infections and 10,152 recoveries recorded on the African continent, according to the continent's Disease Control and Prevention Center. Is COVID-19 a ticking time bomb waiting to explode across the continent?
Yes, unfortunately it is, if we do not pay maximum attention to it. We know there has been predictions from authorities like the Bill Gates Foundation saying Africa would suffer a heavy death toll from the pandemic. We also know there's some conflicting reports from other authorities thinking that the death toll in Africa might actually be a bit less because of we have a more younger population that can withstand the infection. We have the BCG vaccination and other stuff, and the heat as well. But I will also place a caution on that, and as was placed by Dr. Kenga with the African CDC, that this might just be early figures and we might be seeing a ramping up gradually. So it's very important at this stage that we emphasize the message of prevention, otherwise we might struggle. And as they say in medicine, you have to imagine the worst of your patient to treat him the best. We have to imagine the worst of this pandemic so that we can come down with very stringent measures to prevent infection across the board.
What is responsible for the rapid increase of figures in Cameroon? For example, the southwest region speedily moved from one case in just a few weeks to over 30 confirmed COVID-19 cases, and the figures are rising in Cameroon like other African countries. What explains this?
Well, yeah, thank you. I think this just goes to show that the measures we have put in place, though they are the good, strong measures, they're not far-reaching enough, which means that we have to, one, reinforce those measures, and two, come up with serious, more stringent measures. At the moment, I'm quite happy that there's been a lot of prevention message out there: hand washing, hand hygiene, sanitation, face masks, social distancing. But the question is whether we're actually following up with those measures quite well. And I think we have to actually go a bit further, closing down non-essential businesses, enforcing people to stay at home and only go out when it's absolutely necessary. I think we know that there are still funerals and church services going on. And my God, I'm not saying people shouldn't pray, but we have to look into our processes, how we're not actually adhering to the same things that we've been preaching about. And I must say here that healthcare will only count for 20% of what happens to our health. How we take the other sectors of society as well, the social leaders in society, the community leaders, how they get involved in this situation is very important.
You studied in Nigeria, where you worked for some time after your graduation, and you also worked in Cameroon before moving over to the UK. What is the problem with the health systems of African countries as far as response to such health challenges are concerned?
Well, yes, I did study in Nigeria and I worked in Cameroon from 1999 to 2003. I must say here that many health systems in the world have struggled with the COVID. We've seen the UK National Health Service struggle. These are very well organized health service. We've seen the Italian struggle. We've seen New York go down low, see almost 2,000 people a day. So it's something which is so serious as to actually overwhelm every health service. Of course, we know our health service back home is not that robust. We know we struggle from acute capacity surgeries, both in health personnel. We know that we have infrastructural problems as well. We know our equipment and technological facilities are not that robust. So if we allow this to get to the treatment stage where we have to have patients in the hospitals and we don't, I would say, flatten the curve, just a matter of time and the health system will fall apart.
Some years back, the World Health Organization identified over 57 countries around the world with critical shortage of health personnel, and among the 57 countries, over 36 were African countries, including Cameroon. And this is seemingly paradoxical because there are many medical experts who are Cameroonians, who are Africans, who have moved out of their country and they're practicing like you in the UK, in the United States, in Europe, in France, and so on. Why is it that you people are not coming home to help bridge this gap?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Babula. That's a very nice question. I think we've had this discussion about brain drain and brain gain for many decades now. I have seen hundreds of Cameroonian health personnel outside both in Europe and the US, and I must say I've hardly seen any who doesn't have a love for Cameroon. All of them I've seen have a love for Cameroon. But there has to be that political will to get them back. There has to be that meaningful engagement with these people. Many of them have reached the zenith of their career. There's nothing they gain more by being abroad. But you have to assure them that they're going to come back to a system that will be receptive to them. The good thing about it is, Mr. Babula, if you look at all these countries in UK, in Germany, in Spain, in France, in Switzerland, the US, all these Cameroonian doctors have associations that are very active and robust, and that engage back with the homeland. So it needs that political will to actually engage with them. I must say it has happened in Nigeria, it happened in Rwanda, it's happened in Ghana. They've been able to reach out to their diaspora medical associations, to diaspora doctors, and many of them have gone back to help build the infrastructure. That's a dream for everybody. But we know where that has to come from, the powers that be have to make that move and engage with them.
Now, what is required for you people to come back home and help strengthen the health systems of your respective countries in order to adequately respond to health challenges, not only COVID-19, but other health challenges?
Let me just quickly put it here, Mr. Babula, before I answer a question, that we actually do that maybe in a bit more short-term basis. Quite a few of our members come back to Cameroon and provide services, I must say free of charge as well, and they provide teaching. I remember when the University of Buea Medical School was graduating their first batch, two of our members came there as external examiners. Some have come there to teach. They've had memorandum of understanding with the University of Chang to provide services as well. We're providing materials and books and to other of those places. But as I said before, it needs that political will to engage with these doctors and prove to them that there's an assurance for a place back for them to come, and I'm sure you will get them coming back. I'm also quite sure that if the COVID gets worse in Cameroon, you will see a lot of the doctors coming back to help, because many are already showing up the willingness to come back and help.
All right. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic is progressing at a very considerable speed on the continent. What else can be done above what is already being done by the Cameroon government, the governments of the other African countries to limit the spread of COVID-19? Why not stop it?
Yes, I must say, I think we've seen the measures that the governments have been doing all across the board. We've seen them coming with prevention messages. We've seen them trying to whip off their health infrastructures. We've seen them provide universal masks all across the board. But let's also think of what non-governmental, the third sector could do as well. If we go back to, I'll take South Africa as an example. South Africa, what their mantra was, we need to learn from the HIV epidemic, what their successes and what their failures were. And of course they had successes, and of course they had failures as well. But the one thing that they're capitalizing on is the use of community leaders and community health volunteers to go into the community and preach the message, do testing. The principles are all there. We're not going to invent something new. It's been done some other place. We just need to take them and adapt them into our environment. It's quite important that we ramp up prevention messages. It's quite important that we stop non-essential traveling. We'll not begin to see COVID in the villages. That means that there's an urban-rural migration and the other way as well. We need to ramp up the testing and isolation of our patients that are unwell. They don't have to be in hospital, all of them. We know 80% of people with the COVID will have mild symptoms, so they might actually be managed at home and be monitored at home in order not to overwhelm the health service. But we have to strengthen all these measures. It's quite important. On the other hand, the government also has to prepare for the worst. It has to ramp up the health service. You have to get the non-nursing facilities together. We know 20% are going to have severe illnesses. We know 5% are going to be on ventilators. We need to ramp up the ventilators in our health service. We need to retrain our health personnel to act adequately. I noticed in Cameroon that they're now designating hospitals as COVID hospitals, which is a very good thing, so we can get the expertise in one place. But it's very dangerous for you not to also staff and protect the staff in the non-COVID hospitals, because COVID doesn't always present with classical symptoms of cough and fever. Many patients can present with something else and have asymptomatic COVID. So you have to protect them. It is the healthcare is the vulnerable population, and they're the one that you don't want to lose them. In the UK, we're losing more than 100 of our healthcare staff, and it's causing a lot of staff morale declining. And if you do that in a country with a fragile healthcare like we do in Cameroon, you start losing doctors like we're doing now, you start getting healthcare staff infected, you get a workforce that is very demoralized, and that is having us trouble.
Cameroon is at stage 2 of infection, community infection today. When you analyze the figures and the manner in which the pandemic or the epidemic is progressing at the national level, what are the probabilities that Cameroon could move to the next stage and probably get to the worst, as earlier announced by the WHO director?
I think let's be honest, it's quite probable if we do not come back and relook at our measures. As I said before, those measures that have been put in place, which are nothing strange, unfortunately, it is not being followed as we expect them. So people are still going to gatherings, people are still going to bars. I mean, the good thing about social media nowadays is anybody can stand on anywhere on the street and do a video, and before you know it, the whole world sees it. So we still see those things. We still see people dancing in bars and stuff. We still see people going to occasions and going to weddings. And these are very dangerous moves, because it takes a few days to up to 2 weeks for people to be symptomatic, and they can actually be around you, not having any temperature or cough, but you're spreading the virus. And before you know it, by the time the people are presenting with symptoms, they're quite high and they ramp up and they can overwhelm the health service. So it's very important that we look back at all those measures we put in place, but more importantly, put new measures. Stop unnecessary traveling is very important. Over here, my kids haven't been out of this house, out of my compound for about like 3-4 weeks. It's not necessary. I know it can be difficult in our urban center, like I can imagine Bonaberi in Douala, for people to stay in one place. It's quite difficult. But that should also come on the back of other things. 100% masking, as we were saying, single hand washing techniques, as we've been saying. It's quite important that we put all those measures in place and also have means of re-evaluating the success.
Is it time to implement total or partial lockdown in Cameroon?
I think it's if the possibilities were there, I would say yes. It's easier said than done. But one thing I would not. I think I'll be unfair to myself to think that what has happened in other Western countries, we can just take them directly and put them to Cameroon. A lot of the people in Cameroon are in the informal sector, so the buyer and sellers who need to go out to make money to feed their families. So by the time you're stopping them from going out to do that, then you need to be able to. The economy needs to be able to handle their needs. Over here in the West, people are kept at home. The government can pay them. I'm not sure how much you can have that kind of robustness in Cameroon. But we can also go ahead and put something as similar to that. So people can go out in a more controlled fashion, respecting the social distancing, respecting the hand washing, the face mask. So the buyer sellers can go outside, but also go outside and be able to be in a fashion so that they don't propagate the virus and they don't also get the virus. And we have to be clear to people. The use of face mask is actually, if I'm wearing a face mask, it has more chances of preventing me from passing the virus over to you. It's not that you prevent me from getting it from you higher, the higher chance for me from passing over to you, which means that we have to empower everybody to say, if you're standing around somebody who hasn't got a mask on, you are putting yourself at risk. Because though you might have a mask on, that person can have a higher chance of passing that virus to you, but you have a lower chance of passing the virus to the person because you have a mask on. When we empower every individual like that, then they will make sure that they empower their society and their community, and I think those would help build up the prevention message.
What should be done to empower everybody, including the poor and low-income earners? Should government produce face masks and masks in great quantity and distribute free of charge to all Cameroonians?
I think we will be honest to say that we cannot expect any government to do everything for all the people. It's never happened. We don't have it in the UK. We have other sectors coming, the voluntary sector, the third sector, the big businesses. We are joined, like we in Camdog, as my president was saying yesterday, are also joining this fight by also providing those masks to distribute to the public. So we need other players to come in as well and support big businesses, third sector, churches, mosques, and everybody has to put their hand together in this fight. If we leave it just to the government alone, of course, there's going to be some shortcoming. If we leave it just to the healthcare system alone, there's going to be some shortcoming. It's going to be a fight for.
Dr. Valentine Ngoa speaking to us there from the United Kingdom. And this is where we're going to end this edition of the news. Doctor, do you have a last word before we go?
Yes, just to say and to say to my fellow Cameroonians, people in Cameroon, when in the UK we sat here and we saw people dying in Italy, never once did we believe that we'll have such a situation in the UK. But when we started losing more than 1,000 people a day, then in the quarter order we actually had, we were playing catch up. I think what I want to say to get through to you, we have to start up now with very stringent measures of protection, as in the UK, health service. Some protection.
All right, Dr. Valentine Ngoa, physician and lead clinical national HIV fractured database, meet Yorkshire hospitals in the United Kingdom, speaking to us in this newscast. He's also a member of the Association of Cameroonian Doctors in the UK. Doctor, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.